Welcome everyone to our episode 131st or 31. We are going to talk about the mirrors of your life. And I am really excited about this topic because I was just reflecting about the so many ways that nature, that the universe, that life give us to pay attention to our own inner chaos, our own inner patterns, our own inner toxicity and repetitiveness of the things that we are doing with our lives, and how we are consciously or unconsciously leading us to disease or to have uh, struggles in our lives. And that's the topic that we are going to discuss today because there is a lot of information that nowadays we have from these patterns, from this geometry, from these mathematical equations, from physics, from quantum physics, and all of these things that are being reflected to us in many, many ways. So to begin with, we are going to question ourselves on what are some of your repetitive patterns that affect your health. For example, the internal structure of everyone's body tends to follow and recover a balance. We are created to be in balance. We are created to be in order. And that is reflected in a state of health. We decide instead to follow certain toxic behaviors. And many times, more than 90% of the times, we know what are the toxic behaviors. And we know that they will affect the order of the body. And we, by choice, decide to create a disease or an unbalanced state within us. And that's how it begins. That's the spiral that is going to be followed about the toxicity that can happen in our lives and that is constantly telling us to do something, to start applying the things that we know to do much better, that we know to start um, reacting in a different way and responding in a different way and creating health. So, to talk about these mirrors of life, which is the title, I repeat, we are going to notice this in nature. So, these phenomena in nature give us the glimpse and the picture and the image that we need many times to be conscious how we are so similar. The first image that is in purple in the upper part of this picture is a network of galaxies, and it is similar to how Egypt is, is seen from the space. So, galaxies and how a city is seen from the space. In the second image of green and black, we see a synapse of the human brain. And in the lower part, we see the network of internet, of, let's say, a city of the network in internet and how they look. As you can see, there are many ramifications and connections in the case of our brain of the information that is traveling between each of the neurons in a synapse, and in the case of the internet, of all the data that is compressed and being passed through so that many other people can have the information. For example, this, what I'm doing, transmitting live in a social network in Facebook, is the image from below, is that connection that is being created right now, and many people is paying attention right now. So this is what happens, and these are the fractals. Fractals represents the geometry, the shape, the figures, and the mathematical equations that are within to explain all these phenomena, because there are mathematics that can explain these. And of course, they are very complex, and I'm not going to talk about those equations. I'm going to talk about things that we can relate to. And that's why I'm looking to these images. So in the last image in white and black, it's the mycelium of a mushroom. So that mycelium is the way that the mushroom is going to absorb nutrients and spread the nutrients throughout its shape, its body, its all the little cells within that mushroom are going to be nurtured through this network of connections. And in the same way, if we pay attention to the other image, it's another city in Belgium, Liège, and that is how it looks at night from above or from the sky. So those are the fractals, those are the ideas. But what does this has to do with you and with the similarity in your life? Well, these fractals are patterns that they repeat in different scales, showing the similarity and the complexity that they can have, both in nature and in mathematics and in physics. So, in our lives, the application or the reflection is to use this concept of patterns, of figures, of mirrors, of signals, whatever you want to call that, that can simplify the complex problems by identifying some repeating patterns. Let's say that you consume junk food or processed food and you are addicted to that kind of food. And let's say you consume, I don't know, 2 products of that processed food every day. 2 bags of chips, 2 muffins or whatever the name it is, and you know that you consume 2 of those processed food. Well, if you see it from a complex point of view, it's almost impossible that you take out that processed food from your life because you are already in a loop of consuming that. But let's say that I tell you that you can just reduce the quantity, and instead of eating 2 bags of chips or 2 muffins, well, let's start to eat 1.5 bags of chips, 1.5 muffin. And the next 2 weeks, you reduce to 1. And the next 2 weeks, you reduce to half. And the next 2 weeks, you disappear the processed food of your life. That is much easier than taking it away from one day to the other. So that's the way the repetition of a toxic behavior can be reduced and simplified with the breakdown of the little goals that you are going to have, the similar tasks that you have to repeat in order to create a structure, in order to create an overall process that is going to be easier for you to manage and predict what is going to happen. The prediction that is going to happen is that you will detach from that toxic behavior. And that's how these fractals and repetition in our lives works. Now let's go to this concept that can seem daunting just from the title, but is about the criticality in biological networks. And what is this criticality? Well, all in our body works under a certain amount of stress, and stress is good. A certain amount of stress is good because it takes the neural networks, it takes the regulatory networks of our genes to a point where it is called the critical point. And in that point, they are highly adaptable, and they are responsive, and they maximize and they expand their functionality. That's a good thing for you. But this is different from the toxic stress that you can have in your workplace. Having that kind of stress and having that kind of repetition of things that you are doing in your job is not the same than reading a book that is going to nurture your mind, that is going to allow you to create a different skill or ability, or learning another language, let's say, or acquiring a new skill, or meditating, or journaling, or exercising, or walking in nature, or grounding. All of those things, yoga, Reiki, all of those things that are just for you and just for your own growth and just for your own expansion will create a different stress and will create an outlet from the toxic stress. And all those things are going to contribute to create an expansion of your good stress. And that expansion of your good stress is going to be reflected in the critical points in your neural networks to expand. That means that you acquire a new skill or a new language. And that means that you upregulate your genes to create better proteins and you acquire much better health. So that influence will positively affect other areas of your life, such as your mood and your productivity. And that will give you a different view of your life. And probably in some years, you will be able to quit your job if you don't like your job, and you will be able to do what you are passionate about, what you would like to do, what you enjoy doing. That's creating an alternative path of growth. That's creating this criticality in your system that is based on good stress, not on toxic stress. That's the difference between being in the hamster wheel and just reacting to life, or taking action and creating a different way of living. Now let's go with the next idea. Holographic interconnectedness. Again, the title of this idea is probably complex, but it's not. We are going to explain this with a diagram or with a representation of how computers capture information, and they process and they compress and they transmit and they decodify and decompress, and then they render a different kind of information for another person in another part of the world or in another part of the city, whatever it is. So in this representation, in this diagram, there is a data capture. We are always capturing that data from our lives with our senses, with the eyes, with the nose, with the ears, with the skin, with the taste, with everything that we have to capture data. Those are our antennas. And those antennas are going to capture good information or bad information, depends on you. So if you capture toxic information from your workplace, from the people around you, from gossip, from social media toxicity, from all of those places, the fusion, the codification, and the compression of those data, it's going to be garbage because it's made of toxicity. And the transmission of those data to your family, when you decodify and you decompress, it's going to be garbage. You are going to be in a bad mood. You are going to be stressed. You are going to be angry. You are going to be in a negative state, vibrational state. And that is going to render and be displayed in unconscious behaviors with you and with your loved ones around you. And that creates a system in that family of toxicity. Well, that's the interconnectedness. We are connected all the time. And whatever you absorb, whatever you process, you are going to transmit to the other person. And transmitting that kind of information is what is creating the chaos that we see right now everywhere in the world. It's not just in your country, it's in every country, it's in the whole world. And that chaos has an explanation that is the next idea. But let's finish this. The universe and life exhibit these holographic ways of interconnectedness all the time, where each part reflects the whole, as above, so below. So that suggests a deep unity in all phenomena. We are all connected. What we do, what we capture is going in a certain point, in a certain way, be transmitted to other people. If we create a data capture of positivity, if we consume positive things, if we don't watch news, if we read more, if we create a new skill, if we create a new language, if we exercise, if we do good things for our diet, we are going to compress, decodify fusion, and transmit positivity to other people. So, what can you do to enhance this quality? Practice all of those things, mindfulness to recognize how your actions and thoughts are impacting a larger system in your life. Also, improving one aspect of your well being, just one, your diet, your exercise, your sleep, whatever it is, pick one and focus on that one until you master that one. You go to the next and start influencing other areas of your life, such as your mood and your productivity. And due to that, they are going to be interconnected within you, and you are going to be much more positive for other people, and you are going to create an expansion. So, next idea, fractal architecture of the brain. And this was discovered not so far from this year, just around 4 or less years by the NASA, and they start studying the fractal architecture of the brain, and they discover that these representations of order and complexity in the brain, when we process just one sense, just one data capture, let's say, for example, in this case, the auditory processing, the number one, that is a low level transmission of information. Then, if we get to the next one, that is speech processing, which requires for you to listen so that you can process the speech and create language, that lightens up another region of your brain. Then you move on to the next level, to the number 3, and you have a cross-modality sensory integration. Now you have 3 senses involved. Let's say that now you read, you listen, and you speak. And those 3 senses are creating now a sensory integration. And that is what is happening more or less right now. And if you move on one more level, which is the one that you can move if you are paying attention to this video, to this reflection or lecture, as you want to see it, you have a high level of cognition and you have cognitive control. And you create this beautiful lighting up of 4 regions in your brain. And that creates a unification and an integration of the processing in your brain, and that allows expansion. So, what can you do to start encompassing more regions of your brain and start adding more knowledge to each of these capacities that we have? Well, leverage the brain's natural adaptability by engaging in activities that challenge you and then stimulate your brain in a different way from your stressful workplace. The stress and the things that you are doing in your workplace are not the same and they are not contributing to the expansion if what you do is just repetitive things and you are already in a comfort zone. So moving out from that comfort zone and learning a new skill, a new language, journaling, meditating, exercising, practicing something new in your life will lighten up more regions of your brain, and that will create a learning experience that will create a new skill, or if you're learning a new language, and that will enhance cognitive flexibility, and that will give you more problem solving abilities. That's what is the fractal architecture in your life. Using those patterns in a positive way to grow, using the capture of the senses in a more holistic way, in a more intuitive way, so that you grow and expand and create a different brain that allows you to be at peace and in expansion. Now, the final idea is the interplay of chaos and order, what I was talking about in the interconnectedness. So, this fractal interplay of chaos and order represents how the universe exhibits this fractal interplay in many phenomena between chaos and order. The extreme climate change that we are seeing nowadays everywhere in the world, it's a representation of nature looking for the order. And why is nature in a chaotic way looking for order? Because of us. Because many times we are irresponsible with actions that pollute nature by throwing garbage in the street, by polluting with your car, by eating certain things and then disposing the envelopes or all of the remains of that of those things in the places that are not supposed to be disposable. All of the unconscious things that we are doing with nature create chaos. And all of that chaos is what is being reflected in the climate change that we are seeing everywhere. But that climate change is a good thing because nature is looking for the order. So the patterns are being ensembled again in a good way. But we need to cooperate. We need to be more conscious of the things that we are doing. And they are not random. These things are not random. These things are repetitive also. And these things happen in cycles. Well, now we are in a cycle of chaos because we created that cycle of chaos. And we saw how nature is so quick and so brilliant that when we were under the isolation in the pandemic, we saw how the climate was clean, was how the many species of animals were able to interact without the noise of humans, without the destruction that many times we cause. So what we need to do is cooperate with nature, work with nature in an interplay where we allow the order and not create more chaos. So in our lives, what can we do? Embrace the uncertainty. Know that when change and struggle and difficult things happen in your life, those are opportunities for you to grow. I know it's difficult. I have experienced struggle and toxicity and many things in my life also. But if you can see some ray of light in all of those things, you can see an opportunity to grow. And when you face those situations and you look for the underlying pattern, then you can learn. And that struggle, that toxicity, whatever happened in your life, will help you to find order and will help you to make more informed decisions in a much conscious way, in a much more responding way than reactive. For instance, if you are creating a career transition and you want to change from what you are doing to other things that you want to do, identify what are the skills that I learn in this job or in this workplace and that I can transfer to what I want to do. What are the experiences that I have lived that I can bring from there to stability in my life, in a new role, in a new way of living? So everything that we are doing in our lives has an impact. When we see a storm in other place of the same city, probably there is order. There is a blue sky, there is a sun, there is a stability. So whenever we see chaos, we can see order and we can see learning and we can see change and we can see growth. So every opportunity that life presents us is a pattern, it's a mirror, it's a way to learn of ourselves, it's a way to expand, it's a way to grow, it's a way to use more these criticality points, it's a way to use those reflections, those mathematics, those physics, those things, those spiritual energies, those connections with the universe to expand and to create more holistic health in our lives. If we grow, everyone around us benefits. So I hope that I have give you a good reflection so that you can start noticing more the patterns in your life that need to be changed, the toxicity that you are creating by your own choice, and how to clean them, and what to do in order to detect them, to download them in paper or in voice, whatever it is that works for you, and start applying new habits in a more holistic way, in a more stable way, in a more structured way, and in a more simplistic way. Thank you very much for paying attention, for being here. I hope that you can give me some comments, reactions, and I even hope that you can subscribe to the channels, to whatever platform you prefer, and give me a review in that platform so that this podcast can grow. Thank you very much for your attention. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we will listen to each other on our next episode. Bye.